the heck? It's just, there's no signal.
Are they the cables?
I don't think so.
Should we try a different one?
Keep checking. Check the others. Can you check Casey's? Where? This doesn't even make sense.
What do you think?
Can you run up?
Welcome back.
Can you run up to the kick drum mic and snap on it?
Yeah.
No.
Should we just use
We might have to use
Hong Kong? Is it ready to go?
their mics work.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Their mics work, but do we need to run the speaker outputs from their board instead?
I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting anything.
Okay. We'll have time to look at it before we.
Nothing. Was it working before or just never worked? I don't know. It worked for a hot second and then it stopped. Restarting hasn't worked like it did before. Yeah. I don't think it's a snake issue because it worked for 2 seconds and then something stopped working. And we can try.
We hold this.
Yep.
It's live.
We're live. Chris Wong. Hello, Chris.
I don't know, but we need to sit somewhere so Bear can sit easily.
Hello. Let me put this down.
Bear's gonna have to sit here. Yep. That's probably on the edge.
Can you talk into it? You plugged it into 2? On their snake?
We'll be right back.
I'm just not getting any signal at all.
Do you want me to get you a
Nothing.
new XLR?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Check the XLRs. We don't have
Do Hong Kong's work?
their note.
Okay.
Sorry. I think Chris Wong is watching, so.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, the speakers can be turned back on. Huh? I can't.
Okay.
Okay, check one of the Hong Kong mics.
I think your snake's shot.
Yeah, I think there's something happened.
She's speaking.
Which mic is that?
Here it is. Check.
There's-
Okay, can I?
Because I'm not getting any signal.
That's what the pop was.
Yeah. We could just.
You're gonna run the streets.
Where's Justin? He didn't want to go.
Do we have another snake that we could grab? No.
Yes.
No.
Is it worth it? What's your alternative? Unplugging all of our stuff and You're gonna have to reroute it either way. Yeah. If we can get that before, like during dinner than during the concert. I'm concerned about your gear.
So I'm gonna turn off. We're running through Hong Kong's stuff right now.
You guys are the cool kids.
It should be fine, but yeah, I'm a little concerned about your gear.
It's a great so people, it's for people to sit. What is it? It's because they're seating up there, so that's just the way that it's at. People, we're over here.
I mean, I could just
We're in an auditorium.
get the other snake.
No. I mean,
I could just rerun the new snake
just so that there's,
and plug it
it's like
in,
instead of
like during dinner or something,
Yeah.
and then see if the mic's working.
That's the snake we bought.
Can you go and turn off the
Yeah.
I think Matt's right. It was the top, and then everything exploded. There was that big buzz, and then like nothing works anymore. Or at least not consistently at all.
I saw you with a bunch of people. I was looking.
Yeah.
I was looking. I was watching.
I'll help you rerun the snake. And then it should be.
It'll be pretty quick.
Yeah, right? You just.
I just need
Yeah.
I just need to get everything plugged into my board and
Yeah.
have the snake run it.
So you want to use the
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll rerun. Do we have a snake that we can use that?
I'll bring all of them. Worst comes to worst.
Yeah.
We could just
We have worship team. We have worship teams here.
oh.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I see a bunch of families here, so that means that you guys have probably traveled quite a ways. Do you have any Minnesotans? Okay. I think you drove the shortest distance. How about Wisconsin? You're driving from Wisconsin? Yeah, over there. Okay.
I kind of
Where else? What other states did you guys drive in from? Indiana? Washington. You drove here from Washington State? Oh, they flew. Okay. Hey, that's still a long trip. We're really glad to have you guys here. We also have a lot of people joining us on the live stream. Hello, live stream. Oh, that's right. We have family from Delaware that flew in too. We have the East and the West Coast represented. Colorado, Kentucky, Illinois. Awesome. Well, we're really excited for this event that you guys are about to see. What we're going to do is we're going to have both of the summer teams come up, and they're just going to kind of intermix. We'll have 10 of them sit up here on these chairs, and then 10 of them will sit on the edge of the stage, and you guys can start to head up on stage. So we will be taking the next hour and 15 minutes to kind of do a Q&A panel. So as you guys know, these teams have been to Hong Kong and Honduras for the past 3.5 weeks, and they have spent most of today so far doing some debriefing. They've met as teams and just kind of talked through and processed through what they've experienced in the last few weeks, and they've also spent some time doing written debriefing. So some of them they were done with their written debriefing in like a half an hour, and some of them are like begging me to let them turn it in tomorrow because I just want to keep writing and writing. So lots of processing has been happening today, and hopefully you'll get to hear some of what these guys have been thinking about and talking through today. as we ask them questions. So what will be helpful for this time is for you guys to think of some questions that you'd like to hear these guys talk about. What was a moment on your tour where you really saw God provide for you? What was something that, a moment where you really realized you needed the help of one of your teammates? Things like that. And what we'll do is, you guys can ask a question and I will repeat it for the live stream. Live stream folks, if you're having any trouble hearing, just put a comment in the comment section and we'll do what we can to help adjust the audio. But I'll repeat it for the live stream and then we'll kind of leave it open for these guys to pass the mics around and give some answers from their perspectives. So that's kind of how this will work, and then we will end our time of the Q&A in about an hour and 15 minutes. So also if you have questions on the live stream, you can drop them in the chat area as well. So we will start by having each of the team members, we'll pass the mic down, you guys can start with the back row, stand up, introduce who you are, what team you're on, and what your role is on the team. So we'll start with Matt and then kind of work our way down to Brad and then go to Brett and back this way. So sorry for giving away the answer to the first question, but here's Matt.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt and I was the team leader and keyboardist for Team Hong Kong.
Hello, my name is Hannah. I was co-leader for Team Hong Kong and I was the sound tech.
Hi, I'm David. I was a guitarist on Team Honduras.
My name is Daryl. I was on Team Honduras and I played drums.
Hello. Check. Okay. Hello. I'm Justin. I'm a bassist for Team Hong Kong.
Hey, I'm Nicole and I was a vocalist. Hong Kong! Hong Kong! Hong Kong! Get your head in the game!
All right. My name's Trey, and I was a guitarist for Hong Kong.
I'm Emily. I was a vocalist for Team Honduras.
My name is Corey, and I played bass for Team Honduras.
Brad, and I was the vocalist for Team Hong Kong.
I'm not standing up. My name is Brett. I was a co-leader on Team Honduras, and I am the sound tech.
Hello, I am Phoebe. I was the team leader for Team Honduras and I played keys.
Hello, my name is Kobe. I play guitar for Team Hong Kong.
Hello, I'm Zoe and I was a vocalist on Team Hong Kong.
All right. My name is Hannah. I was a vocalist on Team Hong Kong.
I'm also one of the Hannahs. I'm a vocalist on Honduras.
I'm Molly, and I was a vocalist on Team Hong Kong.
I'm Julia, and I was a vocalist on Team Honduras.
I'm Jake, and I was one of the guitarists for Honduras. I'm Charlie, and I was on Team Hong Kong, and I played the drums.
Awesome. So raise your hand if your name is Hannah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Glad to have you all. So I'm going to have the two team leaders introduce just a little bit about where the team went, who they were partnering with, and just a very flyover overview of the type of ministry that they were doing. So when we do kind of this question and answer stuff, when you guys are ready to answer a question, just say your name one more time and say what team you're on. It just kind of helps us keep track of what happened where. So we'll start with Matt. You can go first, and then Phoebe, you can do Team Hunters.
Okay, so I'm Matt from Team Hong Kong. Yeah, so we partnered with YFC Hong Kong, which stands for Youth for Christ. Sorry, like I had like a 35-hour travel day. So, essentially, whatever the AM of this is. So, yeah, so 5 AM, no big deal. Yeah, basically, a lot of their ministry has to do not with the youth, but with the seniors of Hong Kong. The seniors of Hong Kong tend to be more, at least in this particular area, more the, oh my gosh, I really am tired. It's like really hitting me here. They're like more the outcasts of society, more the people that say you don't really have any more worth anymore, so you guys can just go over here. And we were able to partner with YFC and be able to show them love and share the gospel with them. We also did a lot of street concerts there, which we literally just played on the street and shared the gospel to as many people as we could, whether it's like into a microphone or also one-on-one conversations, sometimes through a translator or if they speak English, through English. And lastly, we did a bunch of Filipino churches as well. A lot of, just some quick context, a lot of people from the Philippines, they're not able to get paid like fair wages, so they travel to Hong Kong and become like, essentially like house helpers, and they get paid a lot more doing that. So they make money there and then send money back home to their families. So these primarily women from the Philippines, they're separated from their community and everything, and yet they still just have so much joy in Christ. And we were able to like mutually encourage each other and share the gospel with them and worship God together. So yeah, that's basically a summary of the 3 types of ministries that we did in Hong Kong.
My name is Phoebe, and we went to Honduras, and we partnered with Honduras YFC. You might hear some of us say JPC because in Spanish it's Juventud para Cristo. So we partnered with them, and we ministered to a lot of kids at school, so from like kindergarten to high school. And that's a lot of what we did. But aside from that, and I think one of the unique things about Honduras, is this mic on? Okay. One of the something unique about Honduras is that like Christianity can be spread anywhere. So like we were able to go to public schools to like spread the gospel and do that, which was really cool. But we also had other opportunities, like we were able to play for various community centers or like be a part of the local, what was it, like the city festival, and to be a part of that, and just a lot of city things we were able to be a part of just because the country of Honduras allows for that. So yeah, we spent a lot of our time going to schools and going to other venues like that.
Awesome. All right, so this morning we spent a lot of time talking about maybe some ways that you guys had some expectations going into this trip that a lot of times people will come and they'll say, you know, I really don't have any expectations. I just want to come in with an open mind and just let this experience be what it is. And that's awesome. That's a great way to come into an experience like CTI. But what ends up happening is you get overseas and you don't realize that you had an expectation until it wasn't met. So then suddenly you find yourself, disappointed or maybe thrown off by, I didn't expect this to happen, or I did. What were some of those things that you guys maybe expected to happen that didn't, or didn't expect to happen that did? Were your expectations met? Were they not met? What were some of those things that played themselves out in terms of like your guys' expectations for your trips? would like to share, I think since we have so many people, just like raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. So Brad, introduce yourself.
My name's Brad,
Thank
and
you.
I'm on Team Hong Kong. And an expectation I think I had before I left for Hong Kong was that while we were there, we wouldn't have to travel by foot. We would have like a van or some other way to carry our gear from venue to venue. But every day we woke up and we put the gear on carts and we tied the carts down and we pushed the carts down the street, not in a car, but with our hands and our feet. And we pushed the carts from venue to venue. And I just think that really humbled me just to know that to spread the gospel, you don't need cars, you don't need fancy equipment, you just need the willingness to serve and want to do it.
So, mine was kind of two things. Charlie, Hong Kong. And when I was like looking stuff up about Hong Kong right before we left, two things that stood out to me where I was like, yeah, that's gonna be awesome, was that actually like half the population supposedly spoke English, and that smoking was not a big problem. Both of those things could possibly be true, but not in Kowloon. Those are lies in Kowloon. There was a lot of smoking, and basically nobody spoke English. But when we went to Central, that was Kowloon, which is a little bit poorer area that we were in. But we went to Central, and there was a lot more like English speakers. But smoking was probably the biggest thing for me. Like that really bothered me, especially since we had to push all the carts and get everywhere by foot. Like everywhere you turn, there was like a smoker. So that was hard for me.
I'm Trey. I'm from Hong Kong. And I went to Hong Kong. I didn't expect to play the shaker as much as I did. No, I'm serious. This was super humbling for me, because going into this, I was like, oh, like I'm the cool guitar player, like, you know, all the kids are gonna love me. But what happened is a lot of times I would end up playing the shaker, which was really fun, and it was great. It was great because, first of all, it was humbling because I didn't get to touch my guitar as much. And it was also great because it was easier for me to connect with the audience and dance with the singers, and the kids as well. And I could move around, and I didn't have a wire attached to me. So, yeah.
Awesome. Anyone from Team Honduras? Yeah. You two can both share.
Hi, I'm Julia from Team Honduras. Hi, Jake. So a couple things. Hello, friends, if you're watching, we miss you, we love you. So a couple things I was a couple expectations, I should say. One expectation was that, because from the stories I heard, past teams have traveled around a lot. So like they'd spend a week in San Pedro, and then they spend a week or 5 days in Tegucigalpa, and then they spent like 2 days at the YFC camp. So like I was expecting like, oh, we'll probably be traveling a lot, but we ended up staying in the camp for 2.5 weeks, which was the majority of our trip, which is outside of San Pedro. And that was actually like really cool and really special because we got the chance to get to know because there's a family that lives at the camp, and like the mom works in the kitchen, and like the kids play soccer all the time and like just hang around. So like that was really, really cool getting to know them. And then another expectation, or something I didn't expect that happened, was like getting to know the JPC staff really, really well. And for me individually, it was helpful that I knew some Spanish, but yeah, like they were just always with us and always willing to hang out and like talk to us, which was really, really cool. So that was special.
I'm Jake, and I'm also from Honduras. And yeah, that. Sorry, I just totally blanked. Oh yeah, okay. So there, like you've probably already heard of like how if you go on a missions trip, you'll often like get changed just as much as you affect other people. And that was one of my expectations. Like I've been on like a decent amount of missions trips and stuff like that. So I went into this I went into this with the expectations that like I would draw closer to God, that I would learn more about myself and like who I am without him and with him. Just see the differences between that. That I would see like just how much he cares for all of us, see his heart for the world, for the people of Honduras. And I'm definitely like really glad to say that I experienced all those things, and that like not that God pulled through, but like he was there, and like I just had to turn around like and look anywhere, and I could see that he was active in all those different parts. So yeah, that was fantastic.
All right. Is there someone who would like to ask the panel a question? Okay. You guys can figure it out. We'll go with Hills.
Okay. Was there a time during this trip that you guys couldn't keep the end of your song straight? And when you did,
So Hillary's asking, was there a time during this trip where you came to the end of yourself, to the end of your strength, to the end of your energy, and when you did, what did God do to just meet you in that place?
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm from Team Honduras. And I think it was like a week and a half into our tour, I got really sick. And it got so bad that I had to stay home while the rest of my team did a bunch of concerts at this really beautiful school that they told me all about. And I was at the end of my rope. I had no strength, and all I could do was lay in bed and like feel bad for myself that I wasn't out there with my team. And because of that, I had to think about like trusting in God, because no matter what I did, I couldn't heal myself from this sickness, because no matter what medicine I took, it wasn't helping. No matter what weird juice they gave me, it didn't seem to help. So it allowed me to just have this alone time with God and to really put all my trust into God, because I wouldn't have been able to get better without him. So.
Hi, I'm David, and I was on Team Honduras. Physically, I was okay. I didn't really get sick or anything. The worst thing that happened to me was a really bad sunburn on my knees and my arms, but that was totally okay. But what I was struggling with at one point, about a week and a half into the trip, was I got tired of our songs. And our songs are great. I love our songs, but there's something about playing them every single time. And like, we did like 40 concerts, and when we have songs that we play every single time, and we have hand motions, we have different things that we do with each song, and it gets tiring after a while. And I was not feeling it after a week and a half in, and I believe it was our Hannah who led a Devo, and one of the verses that she chose was, I don't know the reference, but it's, let's not grow weary of doing good while doing good, for in due season you will reap if you don't lose heart. And that really struck me, because I was growing weary of what we were doing, which was playing songs, and but we were still having an impact, because the people that we were playing the songs for, they haven't heard the songs like 40,000 times. So every time we were playing those songs, we were still having a positive impact, and we were doing good. And even though like being tired of things of repetition is still a real thing, that verse really reminded me that we are doing good work, and as long as we stay faithful and don't lose heart, then we will see, or there will be a harvest, whether we see it or not.
So I'm one of the Hannahs from Team Hong Kong, although on the trip I was also called a Demi or Dina, depending on who you were. And so I know for us, there came a point pretty early on, maybe about a weekend, where I think all of the vocalists were really struggling with vocal strain. We had one person nearly lose their voice entirely. Another person was getting like dizzy, and then the other three of us were kind of doing a lot and getting really worn out from that. And we were really stressed out, and there was a bunch of tears, and we were like, how can we do this for 3 more weeks? But there's just this one moment where we all kind of got together and we just started praying and we were like, God, we can't do this. We're all going to die on here. And we're just going to find sweat puddles. And it was funny because it seemed like every concert, somehow we pushed through another one and we actually got through and then we all got better. And it was just really amazing to see how we may have stumbled, but we never fell because God was like, it's okay, you got this, you can keep on going.
I am Zoe from Team Hong Kong, and from Hannah's story, I was the one that was getting dizzy spells. I just kind of want to elaborate on what she said because I was going to talk about it anyways. I was so dizzy I had to sit out for multiple sets for about 3 days, and it was really frustrating watching my team perform and having to sit like with my head between my legs by the soundboard, just trying not to like pass out. And it was like I felt really bad watching them perform and having to skip any songs that I was supposed to be singing and having them like carry the team, and I felt bad that I couldn't help. But I remember that moment we were on the 3rd floor in the YFC building, and I think somebody else was performing, and so all the other vocalists were sitting out, and we all just kind of like laid on each other and started crying because we were all just like dying at the same time, and we all just started crying. And then Nicole started praying for us, and that was about the point where it started getting better. But I just remember thinking, this is never going to get better, it's never going to get better. But we always, as a group, would pray for physical health, and like that moment we all just prayed and cried. And then we realized, yeah, like how are we going to do this for 3 more weeks? But I mean, obviously we all made it, we're all here, nobody lost their voice, and we all got better. It was just really cool to see God come through in that way, and that we all lived, I guess. We all lived.
Hello, I am the other Hannah from Team Hong Kong, known as TLH or Hong Mom or something like that. But, so I broke, I don't remember when I broke. Everything's a blur. I mean, yeah, I did break during training. But, so for those of you that don't know, I'm not really a sound tech at all. But I was a sound tech for the team 2 days before we left because I was dealing with a lot of carpal tunnel issues with my wrists. So, like, I was overwhelmed because of that in the first place, and then being thrown into a completely new role and not knowing what I was doing. I remember a specific moment. We were playing on Lady Street, not even using our own sound equipment. So you have someone who's not familiar with sound in the first place in the middle of a busy street and using a janky soundboard. And I just like broke down. Matt was like, Hannah, are you okay? And I just started crying. Because I was so incredibly overwhelmed, and I'm a perfectionist, and I knew that the sound coming out of the speakers was not the best that it could be. And I felt like I wasn't serving my team well, but in that moment, Matt just prayed over me in the middle of Lady Street in Hong Kong, this super crowded street, people everywhere, people just around us. He just like leans over the soundboard and prays for me, and like in that moment, and like through Matt, you're great, I'm really glad I live with you. But like, God just gave me a lot of support through Matt and through my team. And I learned that like, it doesn't, like my faithfulness doesn't matter at like how good I am at something or how well I can tech, but it matters on how faithful I am. David Chu, our contact, has a saying like, do your best and let God do the rest. Like that's what matters. So through that, I learned like God's strength is shown through my weakness. Like I can show others His love through my weaknesses, and like yeah, just show His strength through all of that. So thanks to my team for being really supportive. I appreciate you all.
So we have a question from Emma. Does anyone know who that might be? Hey, Molly's sister. She's asking, what was something the people you met on your trip taught you? Something you learned from being met on your trip. Trey would like to share.
Yeah, I'm Trey, again, Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong the culture is very, like, you serve others first. And the first night, we're having a hot pot, and thank God Charlie's friend Michael was there, who spoke English and Cantonese, because at our table was one of the volunteers named Ho, And like us not knowing the culture, he was just throwing food on our plates. Like a second it was empty, he would just throw more food on it. And he didn't eat the entire time. He watched us eat. And we asked Michael to translate. We said, Michael, can you ask him why he's not eating? And his answer was that he's gonna serve us first, and then when we're done, he'll eat whatever's left. And that was just one example of the servanthood and like their attitude towards serving the Lord. Like that's one thing I learned, that serving isn't this cushy little thing that you do. Like you shouldn't be comfortable when you're serving. You should be working really hard. And so I did learn to push carts down the street. I did, even learn how to serve others at meals and little things and big things. I think I learned how to be a better servant from all the volunteers, even the ones who didn't speak any English.
So one of the ways that I think that I learned from the people that we interacted with down in Hong Kong is that, and I'll elaborate more during our concert, but a bunch of the people that we ministered to, these elderly, they kept coming back, and the reason that they did was because they would get these gifts. And before you think that they were some elaborate gift, it was literally a bag of rice. And they would stay for hours, more than 4 hours, just for this bag of rice and a chocolate bar. And we, as a team, we were all like, why would they ever do this? Who would give up 5 hours of your life every single day to hear the same songs over and over and over again, sometimes multiple times in the same day, just for a bag of rice? And it just, exemplifies how grateful that they were for everything. Even though we looked upon the gifts and we were like, this is so stupid, why would you do this? They were actually grateful. They're like, oh, I want this, I need this. I'm so grateful that somebody's actually giving me the opportunity to do this. And they were so thankful, and I think that's an attitude that, especially in the United States, we can all work on having.
I'm Molly from Team Hong Kong. And there are a lot of ways that the people in Hong Kong have impacted me. I think my favorite place to perform was actually the community center, even though we were there just about every single day singing the same exact songs. And just seeing how these people reacted to us coming every single day, hearing the same songs, you would think they would get bored of it. But they all, they danced with us, they were smiling with us. There was one lady that I remember in particular, and she would just smile through every song, every single day, and it just fueled me with so much joy, and it was just such a blessing to have her there with us every single day. Yeah, and just seeing what joy they have despite the struggles that they're facing. This lady, I had prayed for her in particular 3 or 4 times during the time we were there, and she had pain in her knees, and you could tell she had problems with her hands, and she had pain in her shoulder, and she had a tumor in her stomach, and lots of other medical issues, and I'm sure lots of other struggles in her life. And yet every day she was there at the community center smiling and dancing and praising the Lord with us, and that was just such a testament to me of how God's joy can fill us even in our struggles.
So I think Sarah, you had your hand raised.
What was something that you did during training? You're like, why in the world would we ever do this? And then when you're in the country, you're like, oh, that's why.
So Sarah's asking, what was something you did during training where you thought, why in the world would we ever have to do this? And then when you were overseas, you understood, oh, that was why. Charlie, go first.
Okay, like she said, my name is Charlie. I went to Hong Kong, and so we did this, in training, we did multiple practice concerts, but not practice concerts for audiences, but practice concerts for ourselves so that we could go through what could happen if like people walked up on stage or something like that. And there were 2 times specifically that I was like, nothing like that would ever happen, and it happened multiple times. One time, well, during training, so you can't see it, but on my drums, on the floor, I have sticks on the side, and during training, one of the trainers took one of the sticks and just walked away, and in Hong Kong, I had a stick on the floor that one of the volunteers actually grabbed and left. I was like, no, yeah, I need that. And so that was one thing that I did not think was going to happen. The second was Molly here was singing, what was it, YC? Was it during the song? Yeah, so during the song, so in training, I would like to point out Kirsten. Kirsten walked around to us. I'll do a demonstration.
I'll pass.
So, I'm Kirsten. This is Molly. So Kirsten just walks up, straight face, and while they're singing, just goes like this. And that happened to Molly during one of our songs. Like, he just stood there for the whole song. Like, I don't know what this guy was thinking, like, if he was like, are these words coming out of her? She was singing Cantonese. But, so that surprised me was, and that was on the street too, by the way. That wasn't like on a stage someone walked up on. But, I mean, still, like, so that surprised me was people just coming up from the street, so.
I'm Hannah from Hong Kong again. So during training, we do this rainstorm simulation, that's the word. And so like, basically they are like, shut off the lights or like flicker them, and they're like, oh, it's a thunderstorm or it's raining, quickly tear down. And when you're in training, you're like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? I hate everything. Not that I'd ever have a negative attitude in training, but so while we were overseas, David Chu takes us, we were playing at Star Ferry, and David Chu takes us like through a mall, up a few flights of stairs, into like the second floor of a parking garage, except for Nicole. Sorry, Nicole. So like we're on top of this parking garage, and it's just this beautiful view of Hong Kong Island late at night. And we're up there drinking boba that Kobe's friend brought us. John Jay, if you're watching this, we love you. But so we're up there like taking pictures, and all of a sudden we see like rain coming. And like the rain starts hitting like the spot, like, so we're like up here, and the spot we're playing is like way down here. And we're standing up there, and we're like, it's raining. Like someone just yells, and we all like start sprinting down these stairs. I was like, I think I was with Justin, and we're sprinting through this super fancy mall, like full out sprinting, and I don't sprint, but like we're all just like yelling, like, oh no, our gear, this is actually happening, and like it's pouring rain, like. Yeah, Nicole's just back by herself because she was in the middle of a conversation. So she like has the volunteers grab a tarp, and we get there, and she's like holding a tarp over all of our gear. Like we're all soaked, and yeah, that's why we do the rainstorm simulation in training. But yeah, that was real.
Shout out to Michael, because he, for our training for one of our practice concerts, he told us that we were not allowed to jump when we were doing like hype up songs, and I thought it was really weird because like when you have all this energy, like your first thought is to like jump up and like jump up and down and show that you're having energy, but he's like, no jumping, like not at all. And we were having a concert in a cafeteria for a factory, and Phoebe told us that we were not allowed to jump for this concert. It was supposed to be a chill concert, no hand motions to songs that we usually have hand motions, and we were not allowed to jump or get like too crazy. she decided that we were going to slow down one of the songs that I lead called Somos Libres. I'm tossing you under the bus here. You probably deserve it, Amy. Anyways, it's a very fast-paced song, and it was decided that we were going to slow it down, and that was very, very difficult to do when you're used to singing a song at a very, very quick tempo. And so, yeah, that I appreciate the practice concert that we were not allowed to jump, even though no matter how much I hated it.
Can I ask, what's the reasoning why you had to not jump or slow down and stuff?
For the particular place that we were at, they just, so it's like we were playing at a factory where workers would come in for lunch every 20 minutes or so, or every 40 minutes.
15 minutes and they had a 40.
Oh, just kidding. Every 15 minutes people would cycle in and they'd just be eating lunch, and they requested for a more calm, just background music kind of thing, and so us going yes, let's go, Tomolo, take it, that would be too much as they were eating, and so I told them to kind of tone it down, but to keep the energy up. Yeah.
We were also told that they were supposed to be able to talk over us, so as a sound tech, I had to keep them really quiet, and so if you're jumping around and the sound's not following the energy level, it can look a little bit weird.
I'm Kobe. I was on Team Hong Kong. And yeah, I'm the only Asian on my team. I am Chinese, but I don't speak anything except for English. Yeah, during training, Tamai and Charlie were pretending to be one of the elderly at the community center. And after the concert, they would come up and talk to me in Cantonese, or ask me questions about why I don't speak anything. And yeah, sure enough, pretty much every single day, people would go up to me and talk to me in Cantonese, thinking I'm the translator or something. Yeah, I just feel I don't, I would just be kind of speechless and try to just communicate that I don't know anything. The only thing I can say is I don't speak Chinese, and that's in Mandarin, and I speak Cantonese in Hong Kong, so that wasn't even useful.
I'm Zoe, and I was on Team Hong Kong, and I think one of my favorite things in training was we were doing another one of those practice concerts, and Casey was pretending to be our volunteer, and we had a set list, and in the middle of the set list, actually in the middle of a song, we were in the middle of Heartbeat, and she walked up and grabbed the mic and said we needed to play One Way. And I was like, this is never gonna happen ever. They're never gonna interrupt our set list. That's not gonna happen. And I think every single day, we were playing a set, and our contact, David Chu, would walk in, and we'd just finished a song, and somebody would be preparing to give a verbal, and he would grab the mic and go, you're gonna play Nami Dong Ji Kong, even though we just played that 5 minutes ago. But he wasn't there, so we played it anyways. And that happened every single time he would come. He came at the end of our sets, and he would just completely interrupt our set list and just change everything we were gonna do. And that happened every time. And I just remember thinking, this is never gonna happen. Why would that ever happen? And it happened every single day.
One thing that I didn't expect, because there was a couple times we simulated a school concert, and they would act completely dead. All the training staff, they would there was no reaction, and that was really hard because you're having to be super energetic, but there's no response. And I was thinking to myself, we'll be able to get everyone, at some point during the concert, we will be able to get people engaged and standing up and into it. And sure enough, most of our trip, that was true. Even if there was a tough crowd at the beginning, by the end they were into it. But in the last week, it was last Monday, so a week from yesterday, we were at a school, and it was a really big audience. There was probably 300 kids or something. I don't know, I'm bad at numbers, but there was a really big audience, and they were sitting on bleachers, and we were probably 200 feet away from them, because the power source was on the opposite end of the area, because it was like an overhang, basically like an outdoor gym. So we were on the opposite end of it. So there was like this giant gap between us, and literally the entire concert, nobody got up, except for when Cappy, our translator, was like, "Who showered today? Stand up if you showered today." So then like everybody stood up, but then immediately sat back down after he said that. And so like that was really, that was hard, because it was like, wow, like this hasn't actually happened yet. Like every single concert, like someone's gotten into it at some point, but they were so dead. But yeah, anyways, that happened.
At the community center, 99.7% of people are old, and which is awesome. Like, we love them so much, but when it comes to energy, it's kind of relatable. Like, I mean, they can get there, but most of the time they're pretty down low. And one of the things that bothered me, which, yeah, they would sleep a lot too. And they didn't, like, if we did something really cool, they didn't tend to notice. So, but one thing that bothered me the most is their clapping. Like, we wrote a song about it, and yeah, so here in America, we clap on 2 and 4. So that means like, na 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 na, right? And so we're used to that. You've done that since like birth, you know? But in Hong Kong, you clap on 1 and 3. So it's like na 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 na. So it's on the 3. So saying the song like one way, normally we're used to doing like one way, Jesus. They're doing one way, Jesus, and so the audience is clapping on 1 and 3. We're clapping on 2 and 4. So we have to correct for that, or they're like way off beat. Like, we sing a song and just like randomly clap their hands at random parts. And anytime we did not have headphones in, it was very hard to stay on time. That's one thing we had to learn and adjust to deal with the clapping.
Yeah, that was an exercise we did in training to kind of.
We did, and that helped a lot doing that in training, because we had one training where we were simulating playing old people, and they were clapping so offbeat. It was so hard. And then it happened in Hong Kong, like every day.
And the beauty was you were able to adjust to what they were doing so that they could just do what was comfortable for them and go along with it. So 1 and 3 all day. So tonight, if you hear Team Hong Kong playing one way, you guys know it means to clap 1 and 3. All right. So during our debriefing time this morning with each team kind of had one really cool story that, lots of cool stories, but one that I asked each team to share. And so if one of you from Team Hong Kong could share a little bit about what's happening with Lady Street in Hong Kong, and then if someone from Team Honduras could share about the cell phone video that you guys shared about during your time, that'd be really awesome. So maybe we'll have Team Hong Kong share first.
All right.
Awesome.
This is Justin from Hong Kong. And so, yeah, Lady Street, sometimes known as Ladies Street. I don't know. Ladies Market, Lady Street. Got it. Anyway, lots of teams over the years from CTI and just street performers in general in Hong Kong have played at Lady Street. It's just like a normal street in Hong Kong, except there were no cars. It was always just full of people. And there are a ton of different stores, and there are always street performers there. And so one thing that the government has recently pushed is while we were there, they basically said Lady Street is going to be a normal street now with cars and people. And so that was a big deal. And we got to play on the very last night that Lady Street was how it was for years and years. And that was crazy. There were twice as many people, and it was crowded before. And we were playing, and it was just crowded. We had like our own little, we had like our little stage with people, and somehow Matt like set up right next to it with his keyboard, And so it looked a little like a square, and then Matt was kind of off to the side, and Matt just got engulfed with people. Like there were people like just surrounding him, watching us, but he was still like playing with us. But he just like, and then he had to move to the front to get the mic to rap, because he raps in one of our songs. So he did like, him and Brad had to like push people away so that he could get to the mic in order to rap, because there were just so many people, and there were a lot of different like photographers, and we had some pictures on news articles of us and of other people, and like every day we'd eat at restaurants, and we watched the news, and there would be something about Lady Street every single day. And should I talk about Star Ferry too? Oh, okay. So then Star Ferry was another pier in between. So Kowloon is like the mainland side, and then there's Hong Kong Island. And so Star Ferry is one of the ways, like by boat, to get between the two. And so we played there a lot. And so YFC had been doing that for a while, and so we went there also. But then because Lady Street shut down, a lot of people from Lady Street were going to Star Ferry to play, and so that was a whole big deal too. And our very last time playing on Star Ferry was insane, because there were people protesting, some protesting that they shouldn't be performing there. I remember seeing a sign that said something to the effect of, your street performers aren't good, and it makes people not want to shop here anymore. And yeah, so there were some people that wanted us to be there, or wanted just people to be there, and there's also just, so there was like a riot, and kind of a riot. It's not a riot. It was not that bad. But there was like photographers and like news people surrounding, and police put up signs that said like begging is illegal, so you can't play for money anymore. So that a lot of people are upset, because that was basically their livelihood. And yeah, it was crazy to be a part of that, like, history. So.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add a little bit to that. Like, so I don't know when, but and I'm Matt from Hong Kong. A while ago, okay. So in the very beginning, Hong Kong was a British colony, and they had like this contract with China or something that said like after this specific amount of time we're going to give you Hong Kong back. Within like recent history, that time has come, and just over the years China has started to take more and more control over Hong Kong. So like the whole Lady Street thing is like a lot of the Chinese government coming and saying like, you know, you guys need to conform to our rules and stuff. Same with the Lady Street, the Star Ferry thing. The new law that said no begging allowed like at Star Ferry, that's a lot of, the Chinese government coming in and changing the law and stuff. And like Hong Kong really needs our prayers right now, because like every day they're losing more and more of their freedom. And like I got a chance to talk to the YFC staff a little bit about it, and they're just like genuinely like nervous and scared, because like every day, like they're a free country still, but like every day they're losing more and more of their freedom. So yeah, although it was like a really cool thing to be a part of, like being the last street performers of Lady Street and the last street performers of Star Ferry, like it's incredibly tragic as well. So yeah, I'd encourage you to pray for Hong Kong.
Who's going to share from Team Honduras?
Okay, alright, cool. Okay, so my name is Daryl. I'm from Team Honduras, and if you guys have anything to say, feel free to chime in. Okay, so for the last 2 weeks, or the last 2 Sundays of our time in Honduras, we got the privilege to play at a all-English speaking church. It was a church mainly made up of missionaries and other English-speaking people who happened to be around the area. So we played there for one Sunday, and then we did our we did our set list, and that was cool. It was, and then we came back the next Sunday. So during the sermon, or during the service, before the sermon, they have a time where they open up to the congregation and they ask if anyone has like prayer or praise items to request. So there's one woman who told us this amazing story. So during our first time, the first Sunday that we were there, she managed to grab a video of us playing a little bit of one of our songs, Take It All or Tumalo. So she took that video, and then immediately after church, she had to go visit, I forgot what the relation was. Okay, so a friend had asked them to visit someone in the hospital, so she went to the hospital, and she was trying to see if, like, there was this room with a whole bunch of patients just kind of waiting around, and she was trying to see if she could like play music for them, or because she had her phone. But the thing is, she didn't have any internet, so she didn't have access to any of like her music that she could play with them. But what she did happen to have that recording of us playing a snippet of Tomolo that we were playing earlier that day. And so she got to play it for this one lady who she was sitting beside. And I guess the context with this lady is she was quite old, and she was sitting there, and it seemed like she was quite lifeless. Like she wasn't moving at all, no response or anything like that, and she had hard times breathing, and yeah, she was quite lifeless. And then all of a sudden, this lady, she plays the song, like the recording of our song for her, and then just like that, it's a complete 180. She has energy again. She's like conscious again. Not only that, but she's singing along. She knew the words to the song, so she had full energy, and she was singing along to the song. And like it was just like from basically death to like life again, just with that one song. And that was just one lady. So what ended up happening is she wasn't the only lady in the room, but there were a whole bunch of other patients in the room as well. And then they were asking if they could also hear this music that she had to share. So then the next thing you know, she found herself like going down like the room and sharing the recording of Tomolo with all the patients. And I forget how long she was there for, 5 hours. She was in that room for 5 hours sharing. She was, not just the room, the whole hospital. She was going around sharing this one song, this one recording that was taken earlier that morning with the hospital. And she told us that. And then that next Sunday, that she was telling us this, she got to grab a fuller recording of us, like not just part of the song, but like the whole song. And after that Sunday, she was on her way back to the hospital to share the music with the people at the hospital again. And that was crazy to hear, because a lot of the times when we do our concerts, like you see, we do our concerts and we talk to the people. Sometimes hopefully we get to have like meaningful conversations and see what's going on in the lives of the people. But you kind of go do your concert and then you're on to your next concert. And then what ends up happening with that school or church you just played at, you may never know. But I guess with this case, it was just kind of a little snapshot of like the seed that God planted in this church, in this hospital, that just with one song that we happened to come and play, the lasting impact that it has on the community and the people that God was able to reach through us. And I guess that's just one case that we were able to hear of, but it was really encouraging for all of us, I think, especially at like nearing the end of the tour, to like kind of hear about the greater picture of God's work and all that we're doing. And yeah, it is so crazy just to hear how powerful God is to work through that.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about that story is when this lady was at the hospital and playing and recording from her phone, and it had such a big impact on the older woman who was really sick. Though there was another friend who was with this lady who recorded that whole interaction, video of it. And so when they came back to the church, the team was actually able to watch that video and actually watch this lady sharing this video with the sick woman, and just watching like her whole countenance change, and just seeing how encouraged and just filled with life she was to hear that song and the message that the team was bringing. And so it's awesome that God would even orchestrate that. Like Daryl was saying, it's really rare because the teams are there for such a short amount of time for them to really see a lot of the ways that God works through the ministry that they're doing. And some days it just feels like, man, I don't even know if what I'm doing is worth it. I mean, I'm playing the songs 40,000 times and a little tired of them, or playing for the same people over and over, but God is very creative, I think, in the ways that he chooses to reach people. And I love that the team was actually able to physically see on this video just the effect that that song was having on this lady and some others in the hospital. So yeah, praise God for the work that he did there through that. So we're going to take one more question from the live stream from Will and Michael, because they both asked the same question. But before that, I'd like to just get one more question from out here. Yeah.
So how do you expect that experiences you've had in Hong Kong, and now you're going to go back to your regular life, how do you expect that to be hard or changes from what your regular life was before right now?
Yeah, so what are some of the challenges you guys anticipate going back home from this experience, either from Hong Kong or Honduras?
So one of the things that Phoebe and Brett, when they were prepping us for coming back home, is that they said that over this trip we've changed, and Casey used the example of like a puzzle piece that we were taken out of like where we were from and like our culture, and we go into this other culture, and like we get certain things chipped away and we learn new things, and then when we come back we try and fit ourselves back into that culture. So for me, it's definitely going to be choosing if I want to mold back into the way I used to be and forget everything that I just learned, or if I'm going to try and change my surroundings to like what I just learned and how I grew throughout this trip. And so
when we read the transitioning home paper, my first expectation on this was like, I'm just gonna go home and like tell a bunch of cool stories and, you know, just have a good old time with my friends, just talk about this really cool experience and use what I learned at home. But we read this paper and I was like terrified because this paper was talking about things that can happen. Like, I think it was more worst case scenario, but I hope it was worst case scenario. But it explained very clearly what it's gonna feel like going home. And now that I think about it more, I think a question that I'm asking myself is, how can I serve? Well, two things that I'm thinking about is how can I serve more? Watching everyone else serve in Hong Kong and pushing myself to be like them. I'm asking myself, how can I go back home and serve way more than what I was doing? And also, how can I teach others, and especially the younger kids in my youth group setting, how can I teach them to be good servants as well? And use the experience I learned to be maybe a better leader. That's two things that I think definitely am gonna have to push myself to do more transitioning home. Culturally, like, I think I'm gonna be okay, but otherwise those are two things that I'm gonna work for.
Something I know for me personally will be especially hard is just
leaving my team and going back to everyday life. Because, you know, we all come together at the beginning of this and we don't know each other. And if you're someone like me, I'm very individualized and I'm not used to being with a bunch of people 24/7. So that was something that when I came here was a really big adjustment for me, was being with the same people for what it's been like 6 weeks now, you know, day in and day out, like 8 hours a day at least. And that was something that I really had to get used to, and now I'm used to it. And I think something that it's just going to be really hard going home and not seeing these people every day. And because you know, when you're with people like this, especially in like a godly setting, there are very deep relationships, and it's almost more of like a little family. So now, going back to our old way of life without these people is going to just be really, really difficult. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to start.
So I'm Jake from Honduras, and just going off of what Trey was saying, just like trying to be a leader. Thank you, Julia. And just like from what I've experienced in life, and just coming back from different trips and stuff like that, is that like God might remove like different constants in your life, but first off, He is like the main constant you should be relying on the most. But also that He gives like new people as well to be able to rely on as well. And like it's just crazy. Each year I think about like all the new people that I've met. And, like a year ago they were strangers to me, but now they're like really good friends, and like that just keeps on happening. And it's just like a crazy big world. And it's great to see how that works. But also like I know a certain struggle can be just like we don't have the same community back home that we do here. We're not surrounded by that Christian fellowship that we've come to rely upon. But a good way to start is just like what Trey was saying, was being a good leader. What CTI has done, our experiences here have created us to become leaders, to become bold about our faith, about the choices that we have. And many of the people back home might not have that same mentality. So just finding the ones that do, pairing up with them, just trying to lead a revival back home. And I think like one of the biggest phrases that I've heard is just like be the change that you want to see. Whether that's with wanting to serve more, like instead of just pushing others to serve more, serving more yourself, watching the attitude that you have while serving, just being that change is such a big thing. And like I'm just excited to be able to like go back home and start practicing again that mentality.
Justin from Hong Kong. So I want to play off a little bit of what Hannah said about like, so one thing that I've talked with some other people that we kind of feel like is I hope that this experience does change me, and that I don't, kind of like also what Emily said, that I don't just fit back into what I was used to. And like it's hard to be, like it's amazing to be surrounded by really good Christians and to be pushed by that, but then it's hard to transition back to a place where you're not always surrounded by Christians and to still stay strong. So I think a challenge and like a worry is that I'm changed enough to not waver in that, and it's good to be put into a situation where you're not always surrounded by Christians, because it'll challenge you more, but you also need to stay strong in the faith and not change into their ways. And I think that's what I'm worried about most.
I'm Kobe from Team Hong Kong. One thing I really learned a lot from CTI and just Hong Kong is how important it is to put the gospel at the center of everything we do as Christians. Yeah, I think it's really easy for Christian communities and fellowships and churches to kind of lose sight of that and kind of treat the gospel as something that's like the entry to your faith. But really, everything needs to come back to that. We need to be regularly reminded of our need for Jesus and that we are completely saved by grace alone. Yeah, and all these things that we talked about in terms of like growing in compassion and servanthood and humility, like all that needs to be founded in a firm understanding of the gospel. And yeah, I think I'm really excited to go back to my Christian communities at school and in my leadership positions and just be able to emphasize that a lot more in my Christian, all my friends and the communities I have. Yeah, just remind them of that and not to lose sight of that.
So, Michael and Will's question was actually pretty similar to that. So, but Will did say, he said, I almost got in the car and drove out to Minnesota several times today, so good to see you guys on the live stream. He was asking, how will your life be different now that you've had this experience, or if there's one thing that you will change when you get home, what is that? I think you guys kind of hit on those, and that was what Michael was asking as well, is what's something that you're going to take with you from this experience that you'll never forget. But we have a couple more minutes, and so maybe if a couple people want to share, is there something from this experience that you just know I'm never going to forget that happened, or I'm never going to forget that moment? Brad? Your team leaders are saying, oh no, so make sure.
I have multiple stories, but I will just share one. My name is Brad, and I'm from Team Hong Kong. So we just got done playing at Lady Street, which is the busy street, and it was earlier on in our trip. And we're walking and we're pushing the carts, we're going to get dinner, we're pushing these carts back to YFC, and Nicole's pushing a cart, and David, who's 71, and he's our contact, takes the cart from Nicole. And he starts running down the street with the cart. And then he points at me and motions me to run down the street also with the cart. So me and David, who's 71, are running down the street, pushing the cart with buses behind us honking at us. And we get to the bus stop, and he says, you wait here with cart. And he goes and gets them, and I'm thinking, I totally just cut in front of all these people, I just ran down the street, my team leaders are gonna kill me, I'm here by myself. But all in all, it's something I'm never gonna forget, just knowing that he's 71 and he has that determination to serve the Lord still and just run down the street.
Alright, I'm Zoe and I'm from Team Hong Kong. And as we've been saying, we played at the community center like every single day for the exact same people every single day. And I think one of my favorite things that we did is we started doing prayer time. And so Matt, our keys player, would just play in the background and we would just walk around and anyone who raised their hand, we just pray over them. And we did that for, I don't know, 20 minutes. But we didn't always have enough translators to go around to translate people's prayer requests. So sometimes you were praying over somebody who didn't know what you were saying, didn't speak the same language, couldn't really tell you what they needed, so they'd just be like pointing at their knees, like my knees hurt, or they just like point at things and gesture. But it was just really amazing to see that these people were, like they knew the power of prayer and they were so desperate for prayer and for help in their pain, that even though they don't speak the same language as you and have no idea what the heck you're saying, like you could be saying gibberish for all they know, like you'd say amen and they'd still be like praying and nodding because they would have no idea that you were done. And it was just really cool to see all these people that were just like so in need of prayer, even though they had no idea what you were talking about.
I had a few guitar tech issues overseas, whether that's breaking strings or like not making a lot of sound. But the biggest one for sure, there's a move guitarists like to do where they throw their guitar behind their back and it flips around in front of them and they catch it. It's really cool. And I did this move successfully a couple times, thank you to the guidance of Michael. So after being properly trained by a bunch of professionals, I was doing a guitar flip during one of our songs called Bot Joy. And it's kind of like a moment where everyone stops and we say, "A!" And then we continue playing. So the A is coming up and they go, "A!" And then I throw my guitar behind my back, and when it comes around, the right side of the strap, the wood screw that holds the strap into the guitar, got yanked out of the wood. So my guitar is going like 90 miles an hour. I grab the strap like a leash, and it just goes flying to the left. And Nicole, like, was close. If she would have been closer, like, that was a broken face. Like, her performance career would have been over. But thankfully, it never hit the ground, and like, the community center old people didn't even notice. And after that, we played another song, and I just kind of like put the screw in the very loose hole and just prayed that it wouldn't just come out. And Nicole very skillfully verbed about, like, sometimes your guitar flies away. So yeah, I'm never gonna forget that. And my guitar is never gonna forget that too. It's like broken now. So it will get fixed, don't worry.
I think there's like 3 things that I can think of right now that I'm not going to forget. One is like all of our odd humor within the team. Like everyone on our team is just so uniquely weird. And then when we interact, it's chaotic and it's hilarious. So I'm not going to forget that. The second thing is just like individually, everyone that we've met, like all my friends at Youth for Christ Honduras and all my team members, and like each one of you has affected me differently, and I'm not going to forget any of you. And then the last thing is, during this trip I really realized just how much I need Jesus all the time, and yeah, I always need to remember to share the gospel to myself as well as to other people.
So a song that we played a lot was One Way, but there is not just one way to play this song. I think that the amount of variations that we experimented with One Way was something that I will never forget. But the one that sticks out the most, so as we've said, to reiterate that we played for the same group, I call them my elderly groupies. We played for them every day at the community center. So sometimes we like to spice it up, and we'll just like, you know, we randomly taught each other Cantonese. Well, not each other, like they taught us Cantonese, because we don't know Cantonese. And so then Matt goes up, and Matt just starts talking, and he's like, yeah, so, you know, we have some vocalists on the team, and they're actually do more than just sing, and, you know, they play instruments and stuff. And so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like, you know, you guys, like, they play guitar and piano, and I'm the only one on my team that plays no musical instrument. But, so then Matt goes, there's someone that plays guitar, and he was like, Nicole, will you come on up? And I knew it was my time. And I was ready to shine. And so, Trey has taught me very well. And so he just holds the chords. And I take the pick in my right hand. And I play the whole song of One Way. So we're like this close, and I'm holding a mic in my face. And there's videos and I'm just like this. So we're playing, and then it comes to the part where the chorus comes, and so then I start holding the mic to Trey's mouth as I'm strumming, and then Kobe comes up and holds the chords, and so there's 3 of us. just making this work. And then there's another point where Hannah, who's supposed to be doing sound, switches with Matt, and then now all of a sudden Hannah's playing keys, but she's holding the keyboard like a guitar. And so and it's just chaos on the stage. And, you know, some of the elderly are still sleeping, and they didn't even notice. But we just have so many moments like that where we would just experience so much laughter and joy and be able to share that with our audiences to just show what kind of love we have for each other, even though we've only known each other for 6 weeks. But then, you know, there are times where we were living in that beautiful chaos of one way, and other times where we played it more straight and seriously and how we practiced it. And it's just really cool to like focus on the energy and focus on the message that that song has. And we had dance moves that they engaged with, and yeah, it was a really fun song to do. Anytime I hear that song, I'll only sing the Cantonese lyrics. And they learned the Cantonese lyrics. I was really proud of them. Yes, so I got a runner-up for best guitarist of the team, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, so we could, sorry. If you don't know me, my name is Charlie, and I'm a part of Team Hong Kong. So we could go on for days about these awesome, hilarious stories about old people, but I have a little bit of a different story. So there was this one, and Trey and I know him well. There's this one guy, a great character, his name's Ho. And he's got a crazy good servitude attitude, but he doesn't know English, or at least he hides it if he does. And he would just go off in spells of speaking Cantonese to us like a minute long. I'm not even joking, like a minute long of just speaking to us in Cantonese. And luckily, one time, Michael was with us, we were getting boba, and Trey and I were there, and I was like, hey Michael, can you translate for us once? And apparently this whole time, he had been preaching to us about Jesus and like how we bring light to him and how he has joy because of that, even though like the specific story was about how like his legs hurt all the time, because he's really old, and his legs hurt all the time, and like, but yet he still found this joy and peace. And that was really eye-opening for me, because a few days into the trip, literally I think the day after this, I got a call and I found out that my great-grandma had died. And that was really hard for me because, well, at first it didn't really hit me, but growing up, that was kind of my childhood, so it was really hard for me to deal with that, but I realized, like, because of what Jesus did for us, like, I had a peace and joy that I related to Ho with, and that's something that I'll never forget. Like, even still, I thought I'd be freaking out and like, why'd you do this and stuff like that, but the whole time, the whole trip, even though sometimes I felt like a part of me was missing, I had this whole peace in Christ, and a joy to be able to continue and play and make awesome stories, so that's what I had.
All right, so I think if you weren't excited before about these teams' concerts tonight, you probably are now, and I don't know what we're going to see based on all of that you guys shared. But this is going to kind of end our Q&A time. Obviously, you know, there's so many more stories that we don't have time to share, but a lot of you guys are taking some of these people home with you, and I'm sure that a lot more of those stories will come out over time as well. So between now and the concert, there are a few things that we kind of need to do in CTI world and finish up with. So we are going to keep everyone here who is a team member. You guys who are in attendance and who are planning on coming back for the concert can feel free to avail yourself of one of the many fine establishments that Wilmer has to offer. If you need any recommendations, we can give those to you. But you are welcome to come back and join us here. We'll probably open the doors for the concert at around 6:45. So, and we'll start in here at 7 with the team's final concert. So Team Honduras will go first, and then Team Hong Kong. So that's the plan for tonight, and I think we should give these guys a hand. Thank you so much for sharing. And ultimately, this morning when we started this day, we just were talking about the fact that if nothing else, you know, if there's nothing that we remember beyond today, we hope that the thing that we remember is that that God has seen us in our need and provided His Son to us, and draws us back to Him through the power of Christ's blood shed for us. And that's the thing. I mean, we have a lot of fun stories that God kind of like brought into these guys' lives as they went along and shared that message. But ultimately, that's the thing that we want ourselves to remember, and you guys as well. And hopefully that will come out even more tonight in the team's concert. So I just want to take a minute and just thank God on our behalf and on the team's behalf for what they've shared. And then we'll dismiss, and we'll see you guys hopefully back here at 7. So God, we are so honored and humbled that you would somehow orchestrate the bringing together of these 20 team members from all around North America, and that you would form them into a family. God, we know that in Christ you reconcile us to yourself, but you also reconcile us to one another. And I just thank you that your power is seen in these teams in the way that they've become a family, the way that they've been able to serve and minister together. God, that's something that only you can do. So we glorify you for that we see in them. We glorify you for all of these stories that we've heard of your work. We know, God, that it's only just the beginning, that you're continuing to move in power in your gospel that's been shared in Honduras and Hong Kong. And even as those partners continue to minister, God, we know that you are at work. So we thank you, we glorify you, and we're just so glad that you invited us to partner with you in this work. I pray that as we go from here, that desire would continue, and we would always be looking for opportunities to serve and to share this message that you've given us. Amen. All right, we'll see you at 7.
Oops, sorry.